Okay, I want you to picture a scenario, I think. I think this is going to feel uncomfortably familiar for a lot of people.
Oh, boy.
It's Monday morning. You've bought the planner. Maybe it's, I don't know, the third one this year, the expensive one. You have the color-coded pens.
It's the whole system.
The whole system. You've mapped out your day in those perfect 30-minute blocks. You are going to be a machine. And then 10:00 a.m. hits.
And you're already off track.
You're not even done with the 9:00 a.m. task. An email comes in, throws you off, and the whole house of cards just collapses. You look at that schedule and you just feel this hot wave of shame. You think, why can't I just do the thing?
It's that immediate assumption, isn't it? That if you can't stick to the rigid plan, then something is mechanically wrong with you. You lack discipline or focus.
We jump straight to, I'm broken. We see it as a character flaw. But today, we're going to try and flip that script.
I like the sound of that.
We're doing a deep dive into a really fascinating piece by Jaime Hoerricks, a PhD, from her work Executive Functioning, the Two Clocks on the Wall. And the mission here is, well, it's pretty radical. We're going to see if we can separate this idea of dysfunction from the person.
And look at the environment instead.
Exactly, the environment they're trying to survive in.
It is a radical shift. Hoerricks is basically arguing that what we often diagnose as, like a deficit of will, is actually a conflict of time philosophy.
A conflict of time.
Yeah, she's moving us away from a medical model and more towards a conversation about, well, about architecture. And surprisingly, ancient Greek concepts of time.
And that's what totally hooked me on this. It's not just another 5 tips to organize your desk article.
Yeah.
It's asking why we even organize the desk that way in the first place. She uses this incredible poetic imagery talking about ideas arriving with their coats still damp.
It's beautiful.
It just suggests such a different way of being in the world than, just checking boxes on a list.
It does. And it challenges what she calls the standard model of executive function. The default setting most of us have for how a brain should work.
Right. Okay, let's unpack that. The standard model. Because even if we don't know the term, I think we all kind of believe in it, it's the metaphor of the office block.
Exactly. Picture your mind as a corporate office building. In this metaphor, a functional brain is supposed to have this super competent executive in the corner office, the CEO of your brain.
Calm, cool, collected.
Calm, rational, and this is crucial, they're holding a clipboard.
Of course they are. And the staff.
The staff, the obedient clerk. So the CEO says, file this report, and the clerk just does it immediately. Pay this bill, paid. Ignore that bird outside the window.
Blinds are drawn, distraction gone.
Right.
Honestly, it sounds like a dream. But I think for a lot of us, especially if you're neurodivergent or even just a more creative thinker, the inner office looks nothing like that.
Not even close.
It's more like the clerks are throwing paper airplanes, the CEO is asleep under the desk, and the fire alarm is going off for no reason.
And that is exactly where the conflict comes in. Hoerricks points out that when the inner terrain of your mind doesn't look like that tidy office block, society, and often we ourselves, we just conclude that the resident is disordered.
And that is the key point for me. We don't look at the building and say, hey, maybe this blueprint is just bad for this kind of business. We look at the person living there and say, you're messy, you're broken.
It feels like an accusation. Hoerricks writes about this specific ache, the feeling that executive function deficits are an accusation leveled at people whose thoughts, as she puts it, refuse to march in tidy steps.
March in tidy steps. That's so evocative, isn't it? It sounds like the Industrial Revolution, like thinking should be an assembly line. But real thought, creative thought, deep strategy, it rarely marches. It dances, or it trips, or it sprints.
Precisely. And if your brain is wired for that kind of thing, for creativity, for connection, it isn't designed for the assembly line. But because we live in a world that prioritizes that office block model, we pathologize anyone who doesn't fit the architecture.
So if the office block is the wrong metaphor, what is actually happening in there? This brings us to the core of her argument and the title, The Two Clocks on the Wall.
This is where things get really interesting. Hoerricks introduces 2 ancient Greek concepts of time to explain why that broken feeling happens. We have chronos and kairos.
Okay, chronos and kairos. I think most people have probably heard of chronos. It's the root of chronological, but how did she define it here?
So chronos is the ruler of settings. Chronos is quantitative time. Think of it as the clock on the wall.
The numbers.
The measured minutes. It's linear, it's sequential, it's relentless. Tick-tock, tick-tock.
This is the time that says you have a meeting at 2:00 p.m. or you have exactly 60 minutes to learn algebra. It's time as a container you have to fill.
Exactly. And Hoerricks uses a great example for this. Schools. She calls them buildings ruled by bells,
Oh, right, the school bell, the ultimate enforcer of chronos.
where learning is sliced into what she calls 60-minute rectangles.
60-minute rectangles. That's so cynical, but so accurate. It feels completely artificial when you put it that way. Okay, kids, turn on your creativity. NOW. Okay, stop. Time for math.
It assumes the brain is just a light switch,
Mm-hmm.
and that is the world of chronos. And of course, it's essential for coordinating society. Trains have to run on time.
Right. You need chronos.
But Hoerricks' argument is that for many of us, our internal world, our actual thought process, doesn't run on chronos at all.
No, my internal world is definitely not checking a wristwatch. So if chronos is that external pressure, what's the internal reality? That's kairos.
Yes, kairos is living weather.
Living weather. I like that.
If chronos is the clock, kairos is the right light. It's the opportune moment. It is qualitative, not quantitative.
I think the Greeks used this for archery, didn't they? Like, you don't release the arrow because the clock says 2.01.
Bro.
You release it when the tension is perfect, when the wind is right, when the moment arrives.
That's a perfect analogy. Hoerricks uses this image of kairos as a figure sitting on the windowsill, just swinging its feet, waiting. It's that feeling when you're struggling with a problem, you push and you push, that's you trying to force chronos, and nothing happens.
The wall.
And then you go for a walk or you're in the shower and suddenly, click, the idea just lands. That's kairos.
It's the flow state, when you lose track of time because you're so deep in the time.
She says it's even more than flow. It's a physical sensation. She calls it a tug inside the ribs. It's totally different from the clipboard logic. It's this feeling of readiness. You write the song not because it's 3:00 p.m., but because the song is ready to be written.
But here's the massive problem. We live in a chronos world. Our mortgages are chronos. Our bosses are chronos.
That is the central tension. Hoerricks describes her own experience as being a tenant with two landlords.
That sounds exhausting.
It's incredibly draining. She talks about the fatigue of constantly code switching between the rigid demands of chronos, the bells, the meetings, and the natural flow of tyros, which is how her mind actually works.
It's like having one boss who screams if you're a minute late, and another, the one who actually helps you do good work, who's just like, hey man, just vibe until the energy is right and you're caught in the middle.
And the tragedy is, the chronos landlord usually has the power of eviction. Society rewards chronos. If you're good at chronos, you're organized, reliable.
Executive.
Exactly. If you're wired for kairos, you're often labeled scattered, procrastinating, or disordered.
Which brings us right back to that broken brain feeling. It's not that the engine is broken, it's that we're trying to drive a boat on a highway. The vehicle is fine, the infrastructure is just hostile to it.
That's a great way of putting it. And this connects to why she wrote this in the first place. It actually came from her earlier work on gestalt processing. And we have to talk about this, because without understanding gestalt, you can't really get why chronos is so painful for some people.
I feel like gestalt is one of those words people throw around a lot. The whole is greater than the sum of its parts. But how does she apply it to the actual mechanics of thinking?
She applies it to how ideas arrive. For a linear thinker, someone who gets along with chronos thinking, is step by step. A, then B, then C.
The obedient clerks filing papers one by one.
Right. But for a gestalt processor, meaning doesn't arrive in steps. It arrives whole.
This is where that image comes in, the idea arriving sideways with its coat still damp.
Yes. It's such a visceral description. It implies the idea just came in from a storm. It's fresh, maybe a little messy, but it's complete. It didn't march in the front door. It climbed in the window.
I think a lot of people listening will recognize this. It's that feeling of looking at a complex problem and just knowing the answer, but having no idea how you got there.
That is classic gestalt processing. You see the whole picture at once. It's like watching a Polaroid photo develop. You don't see one corner, then the middle. The whole image just fades into view all at once.
But imagine the frustration when you're in a chronos environment, like a school or a corporate meeting, that demands you show your work.
You can't, because there were no steps. It wasn't a staircase, it was a lightning strike. And this is where the office block metaphor really, really breaks down, because it's designed for paper trails, for audit logs. Gestalt processing leaves no audit log.
It's heartbreaking, really. You have this incredible ability to synthesize huge amounts of information instantly, which is a superpower. But because you can't fill out the spreadsheet in the right order, you're told you have a deficit.
And that leads us to the crucial reframe of this whole deep dive. Hoerricks asking us to shift our perspective from biology to architecture.
The language of executive function sounds like architecture. That line really stuck with me.
It's a profound shift. If we stop saying, my brain is a faulty manager, and start saying, I am navigating a complex weather system inside my mind, everything changes.
It becomes less about shame and more about navigation. You don't yell at the rain for falling, you just get an umbrella.
Or, from the kairos perspective, maybe you wait for the rain to stop. You learn to read your own weather. You learn that your energy has tides. There are times to push, and there are times to just wait.
But let's play devil's advocate for a second. The chronos world doesn't like waiting. Your boss doesn't care about your internal weather. They care about the Q3 earnings report.
No, they don't. And Hoerricks is pretty critical of that. She has this biting observation about meetings. She says they often begin by announcing how little time we are allowed to become human together.
Oof, that hits hard. How little time we are allowed to become human together. It's that preamble, isn't it? I know we're all busy, so let's keep this tight.
It strips away the humanity. It strips away the kairos. Because genuine connection with another person is a kairos activity. You can't schedule intimacy into a 6-minute slot on the calendar.
Well, you can try, but it usually ends up being pretty awkward.
Okay, initiate bonding. Bonding complete. Next slide.
Exactly. So when we force our entire lives, our work, our learning, our relationships into these 60-minute rectangles of chronos, we aren't just making ourselves inefficient. We're actively suppressing the part of us that is human. We're suppressing the living weather.
So this leaves us with the big question. What does this mean for the person listening who's looking at their planner right now and feeling that dread?
Yeah.
We're not saying quit your job and go live in the woods, are we?
No, not at all. And Hoerricks isn't either. We have to live in a society that requires coordination. We can't escape chronos. The plane leaves whether you're on it or not.
That's chronos.
But the takeaway here is to stop internalizing the struggle as a character flaw. It stops being, I am bad, and starts being, this system is difficult for me. Right. It's not that you lack willpower. It's that you are a kairos thinker living in a chronos world.
You're a tenant with 2 landlords, and they're fighting. So the first step is just recognizing the conflict.
And maybe finding ways to honor that kairos clock where you can. Maybe you can't change your meeting times at work, but can you structure your own creative work around your energy instead of the clock?
That's a huge practical shift. Instead of saying, I will write from 9 to 10, maybe it's I will write when that tug in the ribs happens, and then creating enough space in your life for that tug to actually occur.
It's about auditing your life for those kairos moments and protecting them.
Exactly. Can you recognize when the figure on the windowsill is swinging its feet and just lean into that instead of forcing yourself to sit at the desk when the weather's all wrong?
It reminds me of a strategy I've seen called energy mapping instead of time blocking. You look at your day and say, okay, 2 p.m. is usually when my brain shuts down, so that's not when I'm scheduling the spreadsheet work.
That is a perfect example of applying kairos logic to a chronos tool. You're acknowledging the weather patterns of your own mind. You're not treating yourself like a machine that runs at the same RPM all day long.
It's about permission, isn't it? Permission to function differently.
Absolutely. Permission to recognize that the office block is just one type of building. It's not the only way to build a mind. Some minds are libraries. Some are gardens. Some are observatories.
I love that. It's a reminder that we're organic beings, not software. We have seasons, we have weather.
And treating ourselves like static buildings is what causes the suffering. Recognizing the weather is what brings the relief.
Okay, so here is the challenge for you, the listener. As you go through your week, I just want you to pay attention to the 2 clocks.
Yeah, try to identify which one you naturally align with. When do you feel the most friction? Is it when Chronos is banging on the door with his clipboard?
And when do you feel the most flow? Is it when Kairos shows up with that opportune moment? Are you fighting your own inner weather just to fit into an office block that was never built for you?
It's a really vital self-reflection.
And here is a final provocative thought to chew on. We label so many things as disorders or deficits. But if executive function is really just a question of time perception rather than will, how many of us are walking around thinking we are broken when we just experience time in a way that doesn't fit the industrial clipboard of modern life?
If we change the calendar, would the disorder just disappear?
Something to think about. That's it for this deep dive. Thanks for listening to the Winter Report.
Take care.